Welcome, welcome, dear sister soul. I'm in Mount Shasta near the sacred waters of the mountain. If you look closely, you can see the mountain there, a little bit behind the clouds behind me. And I wanted to share with you about the impetus and the inspiration behind this rebirth of the Chalice Well activation. And it really comes from the deepest levels of my own path of Great Mother realization, my remembrance of what it's been like to live in previous eons and previous incarnations on this planet, and my ever-growing, deepening planetary consciousness with Mother Gaia. And so as this womb of life field begins to reveal to us, those of us who are deeply practicing here, more and more layers of Great Mother consciousness and the distinct realms of the womb of life and their power to heal all of life at the deepest soul level. One of the most potent things that's being revealed in recent days is the power of the water. The power of the element of water on both the physical level and the bridge that water creates with the etheric realms of life. And the way that we work with water in this womb of life field is as a bridge between the worlds. The element of water is literally how we move from formlessness into form when we come into our mother's womb. And similarly, all of life on this planet has moved through Gaia's watery oceanic womb of life in order to come into form over the eons of time. And when you look multidimensionally, in each and every moment, life is springing forth from her deepest primordial waters. And in this process, I've been in deep remembrance of several lifetimes of living in a much more different consciousness and even in between the veils than we know here in current modern day times. One of those lifetimes was in Lemuria, which I know that many of you are beginning to remember now, in lifetimes in Lemuria and Atlantis, in which the planet herself was much, much more steeped in water than she is now. The very air that we breathed at the time was more watery, sort of like what we'd experience in a very thick jungle environment today. And in that medium of water was the most potent transmission of Great Mother love and oneness. Water, in all of her different forms, in all of her different vibrations, in the many different ways she flows through and around this planet, is the most coherent element that runs through all of life here. And so the planet used to be much more steeped in water than she is now, and through the fall of Atlantis, much of that coherence was broken. And there have been several falls in consciousness for humanity since then. Another key fall then was the times when there was a huge standoff between the Druid populations around the UK, around Scotland, and around Ireland, and the incoming Roman consciousness. And that is when there was the biggest closing of the veils of the ability of the collective of humanity to see and experience and live in the unseen worlds. When we lived as Druids, many of us that were high healers, we worked deeply, deeply with the elements. We lived in divine co-creation with them. It was a deeply loving and very powerful relationship. And we knew how to communicate with the elements, how to work with them to serve the healing of all of life, and as feminine healers to spread the love of the mother. And in that working with especially the element of water, especially as feminine beings, we are deeply, deeply connected to the element of water because of the waters of our wombs. And so we learned how to work with the elementals of the water, and even many of us knew how to travel in between the veils with them to create powerful, powerful healing on the personal and the planetary level. And so in recent days in my work ever-deepening work with Mother Gaia and with the natural world, I've been guided to dive and immerse into this co-creative relationship with the water elementals once again, because the water is the most powerful conduit for the Great Mother's love to spread throughout the planetary field. And so she's calling upon us, and even the water elementals are calling upon us, those of us that are deeply mystical feminine beings, those of us who love water, who sense the vibration of the water elementals and want to learn how to work more deeply with them to heal ourselves and all of life. They're calling for us, they're waiting for us, they love to co-create with us. And Mother Gaia herself is calling us to her to remember this ancient knowledge. And so during the 7-day activation, which I'll be transmitting from Glastonbury, which is the place where that was the epicenter, where the veils closed in the consciousness of humanity around 300 AD, we'll be working to receive initiation from the water elementals, from the ancient feminine druids, and from Mother Gaia herself, to open our internal veils, to receive the deep healing power for our own personal healing, and learn how to co-create healing for all of life here on this planet with the elementals. And because Glastonbury is such an epicenter of ley lines that spread throughout the planet, of course all of the work that we do at that level, tapping into that field, will then spread through all of the ley lines and reignite this ancient consciousness through all of the planet and humanity. So it's immensely, immensely beautiful work, deeply divine. And if it calls to your soul, you will know it. If the water elementals are calling to you to dive into this ancient knowledge in your DNA that I'm sure you've lived in lifetimes before if you've been called to be here, then join us, Sister Soul. We would love to take this sacred and powerful journey with you. I hope to see you then, and I'll see you again from Glastonbury, where we dive into her ancient waters of life to be healed, renewed, and rebirthed. I look forward to being with you then. Namaste.